Welcome to the Washington Week Extra. I'm Ed O'Keefe in for Gwen Ifill. With all the attention on the presidential campaign, there's another political shakeup that may happen after Election Day. Manu, there is talk that the speakership of Paul Ryan may be a short one.
Perhaps. I think we don't really know quite yet. I mean, if the Republicans keep the House, it's going to probably be a much smaller majority. They're going to lose moderates. That means the conservative wing of the party will be emboldened, namely that House Freedom Caucus, those agitators who have been long been a thorn in the side of House Republican leaders. For Paul Ryan to get reelected Speaker, he needs to get a majority of the House to support him. That's 218 votes. Democrats will vote for their candidate, who will be Speaker Pelosi or Leader Pelosi. She's not going to get that, obviously, get the 218. But if Republicans decide to vote against Paul Ryan on the floor, it could bring him below the 218 margin, and that's possible if the majority is very small. You can't afford to lose many Republicans, especially conservatives. So I've been talking to House Freedom Caucus members all week. Virtually none of them, other than maybe a couple, are willing to say they will support Paul Ryan for Speaker. They want some assurances that things will be changed within the leadership. Some are angry about his refusal to campaign with or defend Donald Trump, but they believe he's undercut Donald Trump. So some other conservatives who are not members of that caucus also are raising concerns about Ryan's handling of Trump. So Ryan has some work to do to shore up his right flank if he is to be reelected Speaker. The one thing he has going for him, though, no, there's no opponent yet.
At least not yet. And then Friday he made clear, don't believe the chatter, I want to still be Speaker.
Yes, he said, yeah, I'm interested in still being Speaker.
Yeah, well, aren't we all? Donald Trump's wife, Melania, delivered a rare stump speech this week in Pennsylvania. She talked about her husband's campaign and about what one of her priorities would be if she were to become First Lady.
It is never okay when a 12-year-old girl or boy is mocked, bullied, or attacked. It is terrible when that happens on the playground, and it is absolutely unacceptable when it's done by someone with no name hiding on the internet. We have to find a better way to talk to each other.
I'll say it. She could be talking about her own husband, Karen.
Exactly. I think, especially because she one of the things she specifically lamented was people who make fun of other people's looks and intelligence on social media. It prompted Dana Bash on CNN to say, has she ever met Donald Trump? But the other thing, on top of that obvious, discordant note, she also, it felt like a real missed opportunity, I think. What the candidate's spouse does, usually in political campaigns, is really kind of open up a window to the private side of the candidate that we never see. The overused term is humanize them. Melania Trump did not take that opportunity at all. She didn't tell us anything about her husband that you would not have read on a bumper sticker. You've got to wonder what the whole point of even putting her out at this late point was, except maybe to make some people among his supporters more enthusiastic.
And we were dwelling on the fact that, while Hillary Clinton enjoys having her running mate, the president, the first lady, the vice president, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, John Bon Jovi, Beyonce, and Jay-Z, Trump has his kids, Ted Cruz, Michelle Bachmann.
Sort of Ted Cruz.
Sort of Ted Cruz, right. And that's about it. And then they can't really run the table the way the Democrats can. So you're right, it is a bit of a lost opportunity. Josh, U.S. intelligence is reporting that Russia may try to disrupt Tuesday's election. Remind us what that might look like.
Well, it's very hard to disrupt the actual voting and the actual vote tallying process. But there are all kinds of mischief you can make around the outskirts of that. There have been apparent attempts to hack into voter registration databases. So if they continue to do that on Election Day, that could be a big problem. And then there's also been questions about even the media itself. The country's very dependent, it turns out, on the Associated Press collection of vote tallies from around the country. It's not the official tally. That's done eventually, right, days or weeks later. But the AP is the one that delivers all that information. And there are concerns that by attacking the AP or putting out weird stories on social media, that the Russians could create a sense of chaos on election day that might not actually affect the results in any way, but just add to a general atmosphere of chaos and confusion in the country.
But you said it at the beginning, it's worth saying again. Because of the decentralized system, it's virtually impossible to upend the whole thing.
It's very, very hard to attack the actual votes cast, and there's paper records in most of the states, and it's just very, very hard to do that.
Real quick, we were talking about Clinton and her email server. There was the release of a few more today, right?
Yeah, there were a few more 100 pages of emails that came out. It's the final release before the election, so the Clinton campaign, I guess, can relax a little bit on that front. But even here, there was a little bit of trouble for them. One of the emails that came out showed that Hillary Clinton had sent a message to her daughter Chelsea using her pseudonym Diane Reynolds back in 2009, and the State Department has since classified that message. We think it probably had to do with the big showdown in Copenhagen over climate talks. Whatever she was sending her actually came from a White House official. The State Department now considers that information classified, and of course, if it really was classified, you shouldn't be sending it to people outside the government that don't have a clearance. But, you know, the Clinton people say, well, maybe it wasn't classified at the time. It's just classified now.
And this is she's talked a lot about that. So this is now an example of what she was
It's an
talking
example, but it's just one of really 2,000 examples of that kind. It just happens to have Chelsea Clinton involved in this.
Friday document dumps. They are stellar. We love them all, don't we? Alexis, we would be remiss to not note the fact that the president has clearly been enjoying himself out on the campaign trail this week. He will campaign all through the weekend. On Monday, I think it's New Hampshire.
Right.
Before going to Philadelphia,
He was
right?
in North Carolina today. He will be on Sunday in Florida, Orlando, and Kissimmee, and then he'll be in New Hampshire and Pennsylvania. He may be in one other location, but he's going to be on the trail stumping for Hillary Clinton and Senate candidates and House candidates, Democrats, all the way through, but mostly Hillary Clinton.
It seems this might almost be cathartic for him, given that this is really his last chance to capture the public imagination before the election and the focus turns to his successor.
He's having fun in a way that makes the audience have fun, which is the whole point that Hillary Clinton wanted him out there. His joy and what she calls the music that he brings to campaigning, his stellar ability to put it all together. The message is both talking about himself and his legacy, my 8 years, you can help me carry this forward. It's also singing her praises. It's also telling voters, even if you're not persuaded when I tell you that she's the most outstanding candidate, you can't support Donald Trump. And then he goes into these incredibly exhilarating riffs about what's wrong with Donald Trump. And the way he does it, the style he does it, here's a president who's at a very high job approval. He knows that he's being listened to, and he can bring that cool factor and that kind of colloquial way. We watched him this week, and we know as a president he watches a lot of ESPN, so he talks about, come on, man, and he talks to the audience, mostly younger people, trying to encourage them to vote in a way that resonates with them. He talks about he goes off his script and he says, I'm going to get in trouble with my staff because now I'm talking about this. And, he makes it a pleasure for them who've, coming to the rally. It's not just talking points, even though it is talking points.
Okay, so how many Fridays have we sat here over the course of this cycle, and now it's almost over? It's kind of incredible to think we've gotten here.
It is.
As you said, next Friday we have a new president.
But we didn't talk about the most important news of the week.
How could we forget? Go ahead. What was the most important news of the week?
As a long-suffering and diehard Cubs fan, them winning the World Series is one of the top moments of my life.
You said it was like number 4 or 5.
Number 4 or 5. I won't tell you what it ranks up with.
The president wants them to come to the White House, so you better be there.
Yes, I better be there.
You don't think they'd hold out for the next guy? We'll see. Well, look, thanks, everyone. And while you're online, take the Washington Weekly News Quiz to test your knowledge. And we'll see you here next time on the Washington Week Extra. Take care.